What's going on, boys? How you doing? Ginger, Ricky. Let's get right into it here. Obviously, tomorrow is all that matters on the indexes and the market overall. It depends all on what JPOW is going to say. All day we were dumping for yesterday and today. It was pretty weak action. If you look at the charts here, we had a very clear resistance line at 470, around 470 and 471 range. So very tough resistance. We've tried it 3 times already. Is that the top? It very well could be, depending on what Powell says tomorrow. But the last 2 days have been very, very weak. We went all the way from 470.56 high yesterday, and today's low was 460.25. So we moved down 10 points in SPY in 2 days. Obviously, we didn't close down at 460. We bounced at the end of the day there and closed midway through the candle. But if you guys think about it, a 10-point move in SPY in 2 days is pretty big. Obviously, big event tomorrow. It all depends on what Powell says. Just my interpretation of what's happening, they're pricing in that he's going to increase the taper. So he's going to start buying less stuff, basically. What's up, Saturn? How you doing? Lucky Sound. And basically, what I'm seeing right now is they're pricing in the taper. If he says anything about a rate hike, I think we dive no matter what. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I think if he starts talking about rate hikes now, it's going to dive. But if he increases taper, I think it's already priced in. And I do think we will have a Christmas rally. Obviously, I could be completely wrong and we could just dump into the end of the year. But right now, I'm leaning towards a Christmas rally, depending on what he says tomorrow. And Thursday, Friday, we've been telling you guys, keep it light. If you're going to trade, keep position sizing small. But Thursday, Friday, there'll be a ton of opportunities. And if you do, like today and yesterday were pretty boring days. You don't have to watch everything. What's up, Gravish? And you don't have to watch everything. So what I would be doing right now personally is I would be making watch lists on names that you like. If we do start ripping on Thursday, what are you going to buy? Just don't randomly jump into whatever's moving. Have a list ready. Be ready on the names you want to buy into Christmas end, that you want to have long term. And just be prepared for Thursday and Friday for the opportunities. QQQ, same thing. All depends on tomorrow. Again, we're down a lot in the last 2 days. Strong close to paint the daily candle. By painting the daily candle, I mean it doesn't really show what happened all day. We were just dumping and then flat for most of the day. And then the end of the day, they did this little rip just to make the candles look like little dojis or hammers almost even. So just pay attention to what Powell says tomorrow, and then we'll have some clear direction, hopefully, in the market. And that's when we can start taking some size and more trades. What's up, Vladdy? Ginger, you already said. Yeah, I will go over SE for sure. XLF here, again, just broke down out of this little bear flag. Do we go lower? Everything depends on tomorrow. Again, there's no need to go into too much charting right now because everything depends on tomorrow. One thing I will say about this IWM is it's hanging on for dear life at this 213 level. If it breaks this support line that started back in Jan of this year, there's a big flush coming. IWM is currently trading under all of the moving averages as well. 200 days above it, 50 days above it, 21 day and the 8 day, all trading below all the moving averages. So 213 breaks, I think IWM can flush very big. And you guys are seeing huge orders on the flow for 210. I mean for 180 puts for Jan, I think it was. And I even seen 200s for Jan as well. But one thing you got to know about IWM before going long, the companies that are in it, like the top holds, you have AMC, which is disgusting. I think GME's in there, I'm not sure. GME, disgusting chart. A lot of these beat up names are on the IWM, so just be careful. What's up, Vladdy? I don't know if I already said Vlad to you. 4600, big support on ES. Obviously, we held it today. We got in calls right here. So why did I get in calls? 4600 was huge. I had a level on SPY at 460.70 cents. Why did I have that level? The weekly 50-day moving, or the weekly 8-day moving average was at 460.70 at that time. So that was the support. That's why I took the play. And also there was a ES had the 4600 hold as well. We were holding above it, so I should have known better. I should have taken farther out calls. I did take 0 DTs, but next time, we'll play it differently. It just kind of went sideways, crushed the premium on the 0 DTs, and then ripped after everyone got out. So just a little reminder, a little learning lesson there. Take a little farther out. When we dump straight down into huge levels, it's very hard to take that level out. They usually wait for after hours or the next day. So again, the same level just kind of bounced around. End of the day, ripped it after all these call buyers got out. Same thing. Bitcoin, big bounce at the end of the day, but the daily still looks ugly to me. Still just looks like a big bear flag. I mean, we did close under the 200-day moving average yesterday. Today we're going right back on top of it, but there is still 2 hours and 50 minutes left in the day. So let's see where this candle closes. If it closes under the 200-day, it's absolute death. If it closes above, it doesn't really change much. It's still a bear flag. Let's see what happens on Bitcoin, but I do expect more downside. That's why I am loaded in Mara puts. We have this very clear support line here. Hopefully it doesn't do what it did in July, where it dipped underneath the support line and then fired right back on top. But right now we were underneath it today. Another big support. Obviously, I taught you guys this yesterday. On a big downfall, you can't just go straight down in a line, right? Like when you're going in a bull pattern, we want to see bull flags. So you want to see a big vertical move and then a flag and then the next leg. It's the same thing as bears. They can't see straight down, so they want to see a bear flag and down. And also, this also always looks, a lot of the time it looks like an H. So it'll a big bounce and then it'll come back and it'll test this support that it formed the first time. And usually, not always, but usually these H's carry out. It's just an oversold bounce and they carry out. One example I want to show you, that's exactly what's happening on Mara here. Big dump down, big bounce, and now we're going over and we already took out that low. So I'm thinking Mara comes down to 30 bucks here. Another example was Netflix I was looking at today. One of the members pointed this out to me as well. This is literally the perfect pattern what I'm showing you. Big down, big bounce, and then we go and take out that low right here. So this is just, there's a lot of examples of this if you look through the charts. I don't know, I can't really think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure we'll see some over here. Walmart just absolutely ripping. We caught this support buy down here at around 135. We bought the 140s, sold those for 100%, bought the 150s, sold those for 100%. Now we're in the 155s, up 30%. This chart looks absolutely fantastic. Obviously, we've been bouncing for 4 days in a row. Walmart is a very slow mover. That's why I don't trade it much, but it's up 11 bucks from the support. So it might need some consolidation. Right now, what I see on Walmart is we're through all the moving averages. Even if we pause up here for a couple of days, we have January calls. Like I drew earlier, guys, we're not going to go straight up in a line. It could pause for a day or two and then continue up. But right now, this is very bullish price action. Lots of bull volume. It seems to be running regardless of what the market is doing. And you see these big runs on Costco, on what's Dollar General signal? I forget Dollar General. DGen? It can't be DGen, right? But yeah, Costco, Dollar General, these guys all had their huge runs. DG, why don't I know that? Yeah, so they all had these big runs here. And then Walmart was lagging behind. Walmart was just trading in a range this whole time. Every time they were ripping, Walmart was just going sideways. So again, 135 proved to be a very solid support. We're moving back up. My price target is 152 on these calls. If I get 100% before it, I will sell them for 100% and I'll roll them out for the fourth time. But right now looks like one of the stronger stocks in the stock market and I'm not too worried about it at all. Apple, I sent you guys this chart this morning. Very clear weekly up channel right here. That one was just for you, Saturn. This weekly on Apple, very clear channel, right? Every time it gets to the top of the channel, it gets rejected. Every time it gets to the bottom of the channel, it gets bought up. So last week, we actually ripped and closed above the channel. This week, what I said on Monday was Apple will probably need to go and retest that channel. And this morning, I sent you the same chart. I said Apple might hit 172 today. If you guys look at the daily chart, breakout, pullback, and we stopped right at the top of the channel. It's almost like a textbook definition of what should happen in a bullish pattern. So right now, I am not bearish Apple at all. I am actually kind of bullish. We got too far away from the 8-day moving average. We pulled back, touched the 8-day moving average and the top of the channel. And now if it wants to explode, this is a very bullish setup on Apple, in my opinion. Obviously, we're very, very extended. And we could pull back into the channel. We could trade in the channel for the next year. But for right now, what it is, pull back, retest channel, and it looks like it wants higher. So let's see what JPOW says tomorrow. That'll affect all these stocks we're going over today. Tesla is no man's land. I would not go long on this. I would not go short on this right now until we fill that gap to 910. Everyone is watching the gap to 910, as Sachs said earlier. Everyone is waiting for a 910 gap fill. So what if they just stop it here and they just rip it up? That's what I mean. There's no probability in our favor The probability says we're going to close the gap to 910, but if Powell isn't bearish tomorrow, then I expect Tesla to start ripping. It'll leave all those people that were waiting for perfect buys at 910 and it'll just start ripping. So Tesla and no man's land, not really watching that one too much. We got Amazon. We retook the high of the day at the end of the day there, which was very interesting. Why is it interesting? Because Amazon was actually teasing the 200-day moving average today. 33.64 is the Amazon 200-day. And today we got underneath it, but we did close above it. So today we went all the way down to 33.28, but we closed at 33.81. And you guys know when a stock reclaims their 200-day from the downside, it usually has some algos buying it. So we dipped underneath it. I'm not sure if it's the same day, it's the same thing, but usually on a longer term trend, on a daily trend, if it drops below the 200-day and gets back above it, I'll go start buying. So let's see the action on Amazon tomorrow. If JPOW is bullish, or if he doesn't say something too bearish, then I do expect Amazon to go on a run. But we've been saying that for a long time, and it's been a turd the entire time. So let's see what happens. I need an A+ set up on Amazon before I start getting back in. But Friday, I will be taking Amazon lottos. I have done some research, and I see something on Amazon on Friday, regardless of what it does tomorrow. So let's move on here. Melly's been acting different for 2 days. Yesterday, indexes closed very weak. Melly closed at the high of the day. Today, we opened up strong on Melly, went sideways, and we took out the high of the day at the end of the day. And the end of the day, I can't even talk after a long day, Jesus. But yeah, Melly looks like it's trying to bottom here. So if you guys know, if you go on a daily chart and you see a stock that's waterfalling down, when it's the bottom, there'll usually be a spike in volume for a couple weeks. So if this is capitulation, this might be the bottom. I'm not saying it is, I'm saying it might be. So if this is the low here on Melly, then this could be a higher low. If we hold these lows here around 1126, 1130 area, 1126, 1130 area on Melly, if this is the bottom, this is a higher low, then we will go and set a higher high, and then another higher low, and then another higher high, if they want to change the daily trend back in the favor of the bulls. So basically all I'm saying is, as long as 1126, 1130 holds, Melly can change its daily trend back into higher highs and higher lows and start making up some of this big waterfall down. They did have news today as well, so that could be kind of could be distracting, whatever, blah blah blah, but they're trying to change the trend here, the daily trend. That's what I see on Melly so far. I am in equity, so I might be biased, but that's just what I see on the charts. That's why I entered the equity in the first place. SE here. All right, SE's just been waterfalling as well. When do we get a bottom on this one? If you guys look at the volume here, obviously there's big dumping volume, but the volume was decreasing. Every leg down we made, the volume's decreasing. That doesn't look like a bottom's in to me, just personally. I do own equity in SE as well, but I got it from way lower. This doesn't look like a bottom yet to me. Like as far as like longer out options or swing trades go. Obviously, if you're in equity, it doesn't matter. You can just DCA into the stock. But right now, look at this volume, and look at when Melly bottomed. Look at that volume. Like you can't even see it. Jesus. Look at this, and then compare it to this. So this is when the volume was normal. This is when capitulation started happening, right? We'll go back to SE here. It is increased volume, but I don't know. Honestly, SE is way harder to read for me than Melly. I wanted to put in a solid bottom and then start changing the trend like Melly. So SE is tough for swing trading here. Scalping is my favorite, absolute favorite stock. This stock literally, anytime it gets oversold on the RSI and the stochastics start going underneath here, you wait for like 5-10 minutes to see if it flushes a little bit more. You jump in like $10 out of the money lotto calls, and the stock moves up $2. Those calls are up like 40-50% right away. So it's I'm absolutely going to keep scalping this one all the way down. I don't care, but it's too early to say this is the bottom on SE. There's no way anyone can tell you this is a bottom. Solid company, solid stock, solid fundamentals. I'm not hating on SE at all, but for right now, it's very tough to call this a bottom after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months straight down. Moderna here. Moderna. Our calls are still up 150%. If you're still in the January calls, it looks great. Everything looks Everything hitting the news is about Omicron, blah, 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 variant, blah, 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 lockdown, yeah, get another booster shot. So all these vaccines should benefit. And the thing I see on Moderna was I sold a bunch when it filled this gap to 271, right? Yesterday I sold a bunch just because we filled the gap. But usually when you fill a gap and it's strong the next day, that means it can keep going. So the next gap, there's another gap to fill on Moderna up to 293, which is my target for the rest of these. And the reason I say that, one example I'll go into is Roku. So Roku was very obvious. Look at this. We had a huge gap on Roku to fill because of that one day. That one day the Google news came out, and we had this huge gap. We gapped up from 220 all the way to 233, right? We gapped up, we crushed this day on Roku, and then it pulled back and it filled the gap back to the downside. So yesterday I kept saying, watch Roku, watch Roku, watch Roku. It did not act at the gap like I wanted it to, meaning it did not defend that gap and go back up. It waited, it dumped down more, and now maybe if it reclaims it, it can start going again. But that's not the pattern that I'm looking for. If Moderna was just like Roku, it would have filled this gap and it would have pulled back. I would have sold the rest of my calls and I would have been done with the play. But since we showed strength after filling the gap, I think it can go and fill this other gap at 293 now. And Moderna left gaps all the way up and all the way down back. So it's a tricky play. It's a premium play. I mean, those calls are pretty cheap still. If Moderna has a big 50-point day like it's known to have, those calls will be double or triple the same day as well. So it's worth my risk to reward just to hold on to those runners anyways. I'm already, the position's free. D-Dog here. So one thing I do want to go over about Powell, if he's not bearish or if he doesn't say anything way out of line or something, you have to know what stocks you're watching, right? I have my watch list. It's basically the 5 stocks that were added to the NASDAQ. As you guys know, a bunch of firms, a bunch of funds, they can't even buy stocks unless they're on the NASDAQ or the S&P 500. And these names should see buying as soon as the market shows any kind of direction. So one of them I'm watching is this D-Dog. Obviously, it's been on a huge run. It's consolidated for a long time. We filled that earnings gap again. It looks like an inverse head and shoulders is forming here. Obviously, I'll make that shoulder a little bigger now because today's gap down. But there's a gap to fill all the way to 169. So you can get an 8-point move on D-Dog. If Powell is bullish tomorrow, D-Dog will be one I'm watching. Another one I'm watching if Powell is bullish tomorrow. ZS, we got a gap to fill all the way to 304. So that's about a $18 move on ZS, which the options will go crazy on an $18 move. Third one I'm watching, obviously, this Lucid already started today. But Lucid has a smaller market cap than these other companies. I'm pretty sure I haven't looked into it properly. But just guessing, I'd guess Lucid has a smaller market cap than those two. This one can move quick too if it's added to the NASDAQ. I'm sure people that missed Tesla are going to be FOMOing into Lucid. Other than that, we got Airbnb, which is, I'll go to PanW first. PanW is also being added to the NASDAQ. This one looks kind of weak, but if it gets through this little resistance here, it can run back to 560. That's another one I'm watching. And the last one I'm watching is Airbnb. Why is it the last one? Airbnb is just so affected by like the COVID headlines and the lockdown and the reopening plays. It's lumped into a group with all the reopening plays. Technically, the inverse head and shoulder is still there. Obviously, the shoulder's a little bit deformed, but it's still there. The breakout is still the same trend line. Obviously, if we wait till there, we're going to miss like a $30 move or $20 move up to that trend line. So we are right on the 200 day on Airbnb, which makes me very confident in this play. It's 164.50 is the 200-day moving average, and we bounced exactly off 164.50 today. So if Airbnb gets through today's high, if Airbnb gets 170 and no COVID headlines or lockdown headlines or whatever you want to call them, Airbnb should go and retest this trend line around 190. So 170 to 190 is a possible play on Airbnb tomorrow. Keep an eye on those. Thank you guys for attending, and I will see you tomorrow. Good luck in the Fed tomorrow.